Okay, let's get our meeting started here this morning. Good morning, everybody. Glad to see you all here. I am here. Carol's here, Doug is here, Kirk is here, Emily's here, and Kathy is here. And we've got Van Grease and Vico. And anybody online, Ryan?
No.
Okay. Hope your summers are all going good. It seems to be going good so far. So today we've got a couple things on old business. We need to get our calendars together. Kathy did write San Isabel, and is the person is
Ryan Ellerton.
Ryan Ellerton. Thank you. And requested a meeting, and so it's just, we're gonna propose back to them, Kathy and I, about what we can do. We'll put our calendars together after this meeting and see if we can't get together with those guys and see how the world looks to them now that they have a new CEO. And Ryan, I guess you had a meeting with Guzman.
Did on Friday.
Anything to report on that, or
We're going to ask city council for an executive session at the next meeting.
executive session of the next meeting
And
to discuss? Mhm.
I guess it'd be up to you if you'd want to have the energy committee participate in that meeting, or not, similar to the way we did last time.
Sure. These, I'm not aware of the content of the meeting, so what's your opinion of whether we should invite them?
It'd be my recommendation.
It'd be your recommendation to invite everybody? Okay, everybody? You want to come?
All three of you that aren't part.
Whenever you said it, and will it be another NDA?
No, we'll use the same
Same one?
NDA,
Okay.
yes.
You're bound for life.
I knew it, it's just kind of like marriage,
Yeah.
no chance of divorce, right?
Do we know when that executive session will be?
It will be after, or at the end of the meeting, a week from today. So 6 o'clock meeting,
Week from today, so that'll be July 18th?
correct.
Okay,
Hopefully we're back from convention I'll be at, so.
so if I understand the NDAs correctly, Ryan, we can discuss content with other participants or someone who has signed the NDA. Is that correct? Is that your understanding? So in other words, if we wanted to give a download to Doug, that would be within bounds.
Correct, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so if you can't make it, you can talk to one of us, Doug, and we'll let you know what.
I'm really kind of thinking I'll probably still be at the brick.
Yeah. Sure. Okay,
I'm going to Catherine Emmons for supper.
I won't be there.
Is Del cooking?
Well, Mr. Tracy can. He cook?
Mr. Tracy.
Poor guy.
Yeah, you'll love this soup.
okay. So a week from the July 18th. Great. Anything else on that meeting? That's probably all that we have on that. Okay, so then we did make our submittal. It's dated July 11th to intervene in the Black Hills. Is it a resource plan, clean energy plan?
Yep.
We all learned a new word.
Dated June 29th, you printed it July
Oh,
11th,
it printed July 11th.
right?
Correct.
Okay, because that was due.
Yeah, 29th.
30th, I think, or
Yep.
something. Yeah,
Thanks for that
okay, good
correction.
job, thanks,
Yeah.
whoever did it, getting it in on time, right?
Well, we appreciate the input, and then, of course, the attorneys added all their language.
Well, absolutely, yeah, yeah.
Spelling.
'Cause I don't
They converted English to legalese.
Yeah.
Usually it's the other way around, not this time.
Do you know what the next step is
I believe we wait and hear from the.
from the
Yep,
commission about whether we've been granted status?
correct.
And then as the case proceeds, we'll receive filings. If we're granted status, we'll receive the filings and notices and the opportunity to
Provide additional.
comment, and the opportunity for discovery and opportunity to be present at the actual meetings. Are they, do you know, John, are they doing virtual meetings on cases now? Are they back in person?
I believe they do both.
They do both. Pretty much everybody does. If you're gonna do, one, you generally doing the other because everything's all set up now, for Zoom and
I'm
stuff.
curious as to discovery.
Huh?
Who would do discovery?
So
These attorneys, the city's attorneys?
Discovery is the process where you can ask questions of other parties,
Mhm. And ask for
and
documents and things like that.
request documents that have the effect essentially of a subpoena.
Right.
So if that's granted, then we would have the ability that as we review documents to say,
Mhm.
gee whiz, this document is based on something else, or it appears to be, derived from something else, we'd like to see this something else, things like that.
Yeah, as long as it's pertinent. to-
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah. And who would request that?
Our attorneys.
The attorneys, so.
Yeah. The attorneys would be driving that bus.
Okay.
But of course, as we go through this, if we see something in the proceedings that rings a bell for us, it says, boy, I'd sure like to see what, whatever it might be, then we can ask our attorneys and they can say yay or nay, and then,
Well, doing this intervention worth it for that one.
you just called whose number I don't have, and they might be saying that, gee, are you guys really online? I'm not gonna take calls in the meeting. Okay. Gee whiz, this might be a short meeting today, guys. If you got anything else? Go.
Where's the rest?
Yeah.
I have a question.
Sure.
I think it was Emily that provided us with the information about what was Kit Carson.
Yes, you did. Wasn't it you? I think it was
Steve
you.
is the one that
Where
does
they
Steve.
paid off their
Oh,
note
I
12
may have
years
sent it.
early.
Yeah,
Okay, did that come from Kit Carson or did that come from Guzman?
What do you mean? the
Well,
article?
Guzman was involved in it, but this was like an article or something like that.
Right.
yeah, oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
It came from the Institute for Energy Economics and Finance or something.
No,
Oh,
well,
I
I think
must
it
have missed
came, I
that
think
one.
it came from an official from Kit Carson or House. somewhere.
I don't remember the content.
There
I
was a,
remember reading it.
We have information.
I think it was from someone down there.
Yeah.
it was a fact sheet.
Well, I wrote that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was,
yeah.
that kind of looks like something you did.
There
Was it
was a 3 to 10 page article, depending on which version I forwarded. It came from that IEFA or IEF something, that they did a study on it in about 2019 or 2020.
I've got a couple of things. There was
They're a third party.
kind of a press release type thing, or by, this is written by, it doesn't say what group she's with. But then there was the study that was behind it. That was the multi-page thing that you were
Yeah.
talking about, I believe.
And they're a third party.
Okay, and
They're
I
not
do-
those monitoring.
I don't remember, do you know, after they paid off the note and their facilities were in, I suspect, right? They paid off the note.
Their note was paid off as of June 30th of this year.
Oh,
And it was
this
a
year.
6-year
Yeah.
payoff.
Okay,
It was a 6-year payoff period, and it was that from design. They
Right.
didn't pay it off, quote, early. They chose to pay it off at a rate that would have them out from under the separation loan in 6 years.
okay,
And in the process of that, they kept their rates relatively high so that they could pay it off quickly.
Mhm.
That was a decision they made.
sure, okay. And probably if that was in June, they have, at this point, not lowered the rates yet.
I don't know, haven't been in contact.
Thank you.
And the stated intention was to lower rates.
Right,
Both when I talked with Luis Reyes back in 2018.
yes,
And in the write-ups, the various write-ups, the stated intention was to lower rates and in the range of 30%. But as you get closer, you may decide, well, let's retain a little bit more of those savings and invest it in more solar, or more batteries, or more upkeep or whatever. So who knows exactly what they've done? I haven't checked.
okay.
I have their contact information if you want. I can do
No,
it
no,
all.
that's, I was just wondering, I know that was you stated that was the intent. I just wondered if it was happening. If rates in fact, but it's too soon to tell.
I don't know. I mean, that's the kind of thing when you see that coming down the track, it's not like it happens suddenly.
Right.
It's like you have a planning process.
Right,
So sometime within this year, whatever they're gonna do, I think they would do it,
okay,
would implement. But that's an assumption. I think it's a fairly good one, but nonetheless, it's an assumption.
okay, thank you.
John, I have a couple things I'd like to ask you.
Sure.
John, quick question. Yes. I probably should know this, but the rider that's just going on for the energy, how long is that rider for? Do you recall?
The Storm Uri,
The 5% one that,
yeah, that is
or 5 point something?
in front of me, that was answering different.
2 or 3 years.
I think it's 3 years.
3
2
years.
years.
2 years?
I think it's
And
2,
Little
yeah.
originally posed it.
I'm gonna look right now.
Kind of interesting. This is price increases aren't only in the energy sector. We went to Macaroni Grill yesterday, and there's an extra charge for inflation.
Instead of changing their menus, they're
That's-
just adding it on there.
That's inflationary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The answer is, it's on complete and remove from bills in 2024.
2024. And that's scheduled to start like this month?
I believe it started.
Oh, it started, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's perfect, because my air conditioner's been running like.
Oh, God, yeah, me too, my $10 bill is good.
Now, my second little point was I saw an article or something on TV where they're talking about people in California going to solar a lot. And the point of it was a lot of the people that have money are going to solar. And some of the other bills or some of the other add-ons, they might not have to pay. So my question is, if individuals here have solar, do they still have to pay all the riders that everybody else pays?
So it depends on how your bill looks, but yes, you're still subject generally to most of those. I think we've got a sample on our page that I can share with you to kind of give you an idea. So
Because I think their point was when they make big investments in like the generation and some of the transmission, that some of the people that have solar won't be charged for that. And here you're talking about people that don't have money already, that have less income are going to be picking up more of that tab. The inequity of that.
A few years ago, if I'm remembering correctly, XL even explored adding to the solar bill for that same reason, was to try and, but I don't think it went through just because of the,
But there are some equity problems right there that
Absolutely.
that are gonna make things worse for the individuals at the lower end of the income spectrum.
So you,
Get rich and the poor get higher.
you've got,
That's the argument, the standing and standard argument of utilities nationwide. So don't forget, there are costs and there are benefits. That's one of the costs. What are the benefits? And usually, those aren't treated in the same argument. They're just, here's a cost. And it's true, it's a cost. But there are also benefits. If everyone at this table had solar, then there'd be a smidgen less demand for new generation from Black Hills. So the cost to add new generation is actually borne by the customer, by the solar customers, rather than the utility in that case. And on, the cost to borrow money, time on, it's a variety of things. So there are costs and there are benefits, and that's a cost. And don't forget to, in the arguments, to include the benefits. The utility consumers advocate got called on that one for just talking about costs, and then they eventually realized, oh wait, I'm falling that trap.
What was that? It used to be the OCC,
It used to be the OCC.
and it's
the
called what now again?
Utility Consumer Advocate, I believe, Office of the Utility Consumer Advocate, UCA. They still are skeptical of the net benefits of solar.
well, the thing is too, is that I put on solar and get a rebate from the utility, the rest of you are paying for that rebate because it's coming on the bill as a rider. Demand side management stuff. Am I not correct, John?
So that causes a real dilemma for the utility companies there. As far as how do you do this equitably?
And then add in the equity issues around the move toward electrifying transportation and buildings and so forth. And that, I don't think that's being dealt with yet. I mean, it's being acknowledged, but not really addressed, I don't think. I sent, just kind of related to that, I'll just mention, I sent to Ryan and to Rick Harmon, our economic development person for the city, some information from a really good webinar I sat in on last week by the USDA, U.S. Department of Agriculture Rural Development Office, I guess they call it. It's all about these rather large pots of money becoming available from the federal government to the states regarding things like creating a nationwide network of electric charging stations, what used to be called level 3, and I guess they call it DC fast chargers now. And the planning that's going on at the state level at CDOT, Colorado Department of Transportation, for how that network will look in Colorado. Highway 50 is one of those corridors, I believe, that's already been designated. When I get the recording to this really excellent 2-hour webinar, I'll make sure it goes out to the whole group. And then there's also, I think it's next week, CDOT is doing a hearing in regard to the plan that they have to submit to the feds by August 1st. Let's see if I can even find it in my calendar. Not easily, but I'll send out information on that. And it's just, I haven't read the plan yet. If it's posted on their website, I haven't found it yet. But it is something that people can sign up for this webinar next week that's basically taking public comment on the planning that CDOT is doing for this money. I don't know, I haven't talked with Ryan yet or anyone. I don't know if the city is hearing things directly from CDOT or anyone around these monies, around the charging network and how the city might fit into all.
No, I'm not. I don't believe I've heard anything from CDOT regarding it.
I'll send some more information out on that since it was new to me and listening to these billions of dollars in this. It was a very well produced webinar last week. And not only about the network, but other things going on with this federal money.
Let me see if I understand. basically they're coming out with its communication at a faster pace? Or,
Charging, well, what I was just talking about are the network of charging stations as we transition allegedly
so
to
this is
electric
car
cars.
car
Thank you. I
charging.
probably didn't say that.
okay, now I'm with you. Now it makes much more sense. Okay.
So they have to, the state has to submit their plan by August 1st for feds on where they want to put these, or at least some level of detail.
That might be good for up at the bridge.
Yeah. Apparently, it's going to be like, at a minimum, a charging station with room for 4 vehicles to plug in at one time, fast charging, every 50 miles, or an average of every 50 miles along these corridors or all around the country, no more than a mile off the highway corridor. So it's kind of interesting.
Close to the bridge.
Yeah,
That'd be good.
that's right.
Did they get into details of who pays for the charge?
They did not in this
Yeah, that's
webinar,
credit card.
but certainly our utility companies need to be, and I assume
Yeah.
are involved
Yeah.
with some of these discussions
Yeah,
about how that works.
Who pays for it is determined by the owner. Sure.
Mhm.
And what you pay is determined by the owner.
So the owner of the charge station?
Correct.
Mhm.
And I'm not sure with this federal money, is it the
Federal
state
money.
that owns these? I don't know. So lots to learn and lots more to come.
So I just watched a video of some guys. What they did is they took a diesel gasoline powered vehicle and an electric truck to pull a trailer down from Longmont. And there were a couple of different videos.
Read that article too.
But I watched the video. Their goal was with the electric truck to get to Pueblo, and they didn't even make it to Colorado Springs. They went 90 miles and had to recharge 90 miles pulling the trailer, and not a big trip. 90 miles, and then they had to spend an hour recharging. And so the costs were about, it was like $37, $42, $48, gasoline being the highest, diesel being the middle, and electric being the cheapest. So it can be cheaper, but the time, that depends on how much, it was about $5 is what it was to sit there for an hour that you saved in diesel fuel, for instance. And I tend to charge a little more than $5 an hour. I don't know about you guys,
Even on vacation, right?
Hero, what do you mean?
Especially on vacation.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's,
that's what I charge myself for these meetings.
That's
well,
what
it
that-
is interesting, because you think even in terms of this network, and, I'm all for it, this nationwide network, but it's just gonna be a tiny fraction of the need if they really think. And I saw a headline, I didn't read yesterday, but there was some headline about, and I forget the language they used, but saying that we've reached this tipping point now in terms of people buying electric cars, that, they're really adopting that technology. And but are we gonna be able to keep up with?
I disagree with you, Emily. I'm not in favor. Well, you said I'm in favor of the nationwide network.
Oh, yeah.
And I disagree with you. I am totally opposed to it. It's a horrible waste of our resources. Electric cars will never be competitive with fossil fuel fired cars. By the way,
Well, we do have
electricity
a
is
difference.
generated generally from fossil fuels.
And the electric company is looking forward to all this, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, exactly. But it's the electric cars, especially out here where you got wide open spaces. You get off I-25, so say you've got a charging station every 50 miles, get off I-25, what are you gonna do? What if you want to go to Breckenridge?
I was just gonna say, how'd you like
They-
to make
they
a
have
trip to
been-
Breckenridge and have to run out of power halfway up the hill?
Right?
Yeah.
Well,
right
you
there on a
stop, you
curve
just
at
have to
Hoosier.
stop and charge. You
Well,
have to
you
stop
call
and charge.
somebody with
I
a
still
diesel
like my
engine.
hybrid.
and generator.
Yeah,
The
right.
hybrid is the best. I'm
Exactly.
happy with
It's
that.
his
So
business.
Stay tuned.
Yes.
As a counterpoint,
Yeah.
Sure.
perhaps,
Sure.
as an EV owner since for 8 years now. Actually, not true. I have had a plug-in vehicle for eight years and an EV 5.
What
I
do you,
get
what
to
do you,
Denver and back. on-
what do you look at the difference? What's the difference? EV and plug-in, what you made a
A
distinction.
plug-in hybrid, this is a Toyota Prius, and it,
But hybrid, so it has.
it's a
the gas
hybrid,
and-
so you fill up with gasoline. and,
Yeah.
You, in this particular case, you could only go a few miles. It's like 14 miles on electric, and then it would kick over gas.
Sure.
So that's the only reason that you do that is for a very short commute. The Chevy Volt was much better. The second version of it got 50 miles. And so that would handle many, if not most commutes before you switched over to gas. EV, I go up to my son's house in North Denver and back on the charge. So, but not so much in winter. I'll charge it at his place while I'm there in the winter. That's the range is.
So,
But that, this is an aside, if you ever want to have a conversation about it, I can go there. I would say, John, I'll put $100 down that in 10 years, actually probably more like 6 of it hadn't been for the inflationary hit. The battery cost of batteries would be down such that they would be competitive with a ICE, internal combustion engine. So we'll see. But in terms of range, there's no doubt that in the West, the open West, if you're away from freeways, it's not going to be a first choice or even a second choice unless you have a second vehicle. And I don't view it as a long distance vehicle at all. Denver and back. That's it. I have no interest in taking it to Missouri or Kansas or Chicago to see my kids. We took a gasoline vehicle.
So what I would like to see that I have not seen anybody do yet is the life cycle study, including where the power is generated, the power electric cars, including the cost for mining for the minerals that have to go in the battery. Nobody has done that. I
It's
have
been
not
done.
seen.
It's
I've
been
not-
done. It's been done. And it's a question where you want to start and stop your boundary analysis. I've been involved with boundary analysis back in the 90s when I was looking at all the alternative fuel vehicles, propane, hydrogen, electric, and so on. And you'd say, how could that be in the 90s? And they were mostly prototypes, so very limited. And natural gas and a couple of others. And we developed a tool to help people analyze and compare between the two for city fleets. That analysis has been done. Some of it's old already. The battery in particular is changing fast.
Sure.
And in particular, it's changing for the utility scale battery. The lithium ion battery for cars, not so much. There is, I don't know what the second generation is for Tesla, but Tesla has something that's not a lithium ion battery now. It's a lithium something else.
There's
It's a second generation and it's a little.
lithium iron phosphate or something like that.
Anyways, the iron air batteries that sound to me most promising for utilities. But we'll see. Anyway, it's cradle grave analysis is complicated and often people bring an agenda to it. So you have to really look at who sponsored the study and what they found. and
yeah.
What they might have left out on both sides.
Right, that's
Both
true.
sides.
I know, I saw a program, and I think it was Mercedes, it might have been one of the other ones. They're working on semis to where they're electric and they actually recharge themselves and stuff. And to me, that has some promise because let's face it, diesel and everything else in the long haul for that would be pretty sharp and be a lot of help, I would think, for the transportation.
So technically that'd be a hybrid.
Yeah, exactly.
Chevy Volt, they're good till they run out of power, then you catch on fire.
That's right.
Actually, I have a Chevy Bolt.
Do you?
Yeah, sure. I'm very happy with
It
it.
hasn't
Good.
burned up yet.
Yes, no, I have for another about 8 of them that did. Tesla had the same problem for a limited number. What I really like about that problem is that I got a brand new battery,
Wow.
$12,000.
Wow.
Brand new battery,
How much?
$12,000.
Well, I think we
battery
should go to the
The
self-driving
car.
car.
That's for a battery installed in the field by, oh yeah, the battery is the big deal.
Remember, there's almost no other maintenance. on
Yeah,
that.
there's no maintenance. I get tires flipped. There's a little bit of loop, but I've had, look, no carburetor, no air filter, no fuel pumps, no exhaust system, none of that stuff.
No wallet when you have to replace battery.
Well, I
Good
got mine
gosh, Are you
free.
kidding me? 12,000?
Yeah. Now, I don't think it'll be that, but that's what they told me.
The
Don't
more you
forget, they
get,
bumped it
the
up.
price.
That's what they
Finance
charge. You know how a dealership is.
Oh, sure.
So that's what they'll tell you, but their actual price, I'm sure, was, a good bit more.
3,000.
Okay. So have we got anything else that we need to?
Yes, I'd
Yes.
like to bring up something else.
Sure.
I've really enjoyed with what John, you guys did at the last meeting, when going over stuff and having some of the programs. This is just my opinion. I wouldn't mind seeing more of some of your energy programs so that we actually have a little bit better idea of, what's available. Now, that's, like I say, that's kind of just coming from me, but I think it would be beneficial for you. And secondly, I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit more about the impact that individuals owning solar systems here has on the rates, as far as what are they excluded from some of the riders that other people are. And also with the rebates that they get.
And that tails really well into, just from the educational standpoint, our new demand side management plan was recently approved. The transportation electrification plan has recently been approved. So
What plan?
the transportation electrification
Oh,
plan, so
okay,
that's
okay,
EVs.
okay, yeah.
And the demand side management, which is, energy efficiency. Both of those plans have recently been approved. And so certainly happy to get out on the road with both of those, with all of you if you're interested. And then in terms of the impact to solar owners, the distributed generation stuff, let me check with our renewable energy program manager, and see what I can pull together for you.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Kathy, are you willing to share a bill with us, what your bill looks like?
Yeah,
Or-
I'm trying to think. of-
I don't want to ask if you don't
Not
want
at
to.
all. I'll be glad to download it and bring it in. So,
Okay.
Now,
yeah.
are you the only one that has solar here? And Steve has.
Yeah, we pay on quantity. The riders are tied to quantity of consumption. So it's not a flat fee. So however much you consume from as sold to you by the utility, you'll still pay the rider. In my case, I produce more than I consume. So I actually sell juice back into the grid that my neighbor uses. Therefore, the transmission loss is lower.
I probably
He
use
uses it. And
So you don't have a bill then?
I have a bill,
Okay.
but it's the monthly fixed charge. And the policy of most utilities is not the policy.
Like this,
Billing design objective of most utilities is to increase the fixed charge. And for example, back in 2017, Black Hills wanted to increase the then $16.50 monthly fee to $20 and change between 20 and 21. That's the monthly fee. And the utility pushed back, I'm sorry, the PUC pushed back on that, and you now pay $8.77 for a regular meter. So the PUC flipped the whole argument on its head. And once upon a time, Black Hills billed solar customers $5 a month extra for about a year, and then the PUC forced them to rebate. So in the world of fixed charges, they float up and down some, but they usually don't change change often or much. That was quite a big change back in 2018, July 1, 4 years ago. But so it's a volumetric charge though. So it's, and because the fixed charge is low, that's where the complaint comes in. Hey, the solar customers getting a better deal than the average customer because if they don't consume much, they don't pay nearly as much.
Well, I think it's just important for us as an energy committee to look at that because everything is going in that direction. And we need to be aware of how that impacts everybody. Or if it does, you know, just how it's treated.
There for many months, it was $10. Now, let's just say that I can hang meat in my basement because of the air conditioning. So I'm sure it's gonna go up. So I'll bring a couple of those. And this next bill should be a good one.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be good to see.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
pay.
Because it's easy when you start explaining it and just talking, but when you actually can look at a bill and go through it, and say, well, this and this, and compare and contrast a little bit, it makes more sense. To me, it makes more sense.
And they've been real good too about, they include how to read your solar portion and things that way. For us idiots that even though we worked in the industry, it's still sometimes hard to understand. So,
Hard to follow.
yeah, so it's good for.
But I think your point is well taken because it is, there are some, or there appear that there could be some inequities and definitely, and I know that that's, you know, the challenge is as they talk in the industry, you know, about the death spiral of utilities, right? Why? Well, because every single customer that leaves more cost for those.
Just
It's just like
increases our problem.
transportation with
Yeah.
gas, you know, you've got a gas tax, but as the cars got more efficient, you got a lot less gas tax.
So the roads are not in as good a repair. Absolutely.
I think the government's fixed that one, Kathy.
Yeah.
For now.
Yeah, by another route.
The EVs will probably have to have a tax on their property tax. I've read where some people are talking about that because otherwise
There'll be something.
they're not gonna pay, they're gonna be using the roads and they're not gonna be paying for it.
Yeah.
Well, I think the recent fix, didn't it include some sort of, as part of the registration for an EV, I think there's an additional charge, is what I recall is the mechanism they used when they did this recent change to the fuel
Just a
tax.
one-time
They
charge.
be in Colorado,
It would be
or they
In
be.
Colorado,
Uh-huh.
in Colorado, and then no one
Annual.
Yeah, I was gonna say that they need to.
Yeah, as I recall, they had it fixed for that, because that was a huge deal, and I thought that was actually a really good compromise.
Yeah, yeah.
I agree. It's, users should pay. And you pay when you, at the gas pump,
Gas pump, yeah.
but you don't, if you're an EV owner, you don't. So
Yeah.
there should be a way to
Compensate.
work that, and I think, I follow that argument, but I didn't know that it had wrapped up that legislation.
Yeah, I believe it did. I'm like 90% sure.
You'll know next time you renew.
Yeah.
You may not know, John, I'm understanding that it's hard to get solar panels because from China. So is your solar program saying, hey, I'm waiting for these, so you're locked in at a certain time as far as for people to get rebates?
So we, all we do is issue the rebate once we've determined that they're eligible and all that sort of stuff. We don't have anything to do with the cost of the installer.
No, I guess what I'm saying is that could the installer notify you saying, so-and-so at such and such address has signed a contract, but I can't get them. But I know that rebates change every so often. So can I lock my customer in at this point so that when they do come in, we get that amount?
Yeah, I'm sure it's based under the program that they were approved under. So our prior DSM plan that ran through 2022, which was through 2021, which was extended through March or April of this year, would, if your application was in prior to then, that's when you were under that program. And then we have a whole separate bucket of money for the new rebates.
plan. Have the rebates gone down?
So actually, we are reducing rebates for solar because there was some interesting testimony that showed that regardless of whether or not we were offering a rebate, people were doing solar, so they don't need the incentive. And so, right, they've, it's for some people, it's a make or buy decision, right?
Plus there for a long time, the panels were coming down in cost because the demand did go up, so, okay.
Right, and so we have reduced that, and there are different increases to incent other things. So I will just share, I'm not that familiar with the new program yet, which was why it'd be great to have it brought to
Yeah,
all of you. Because there are some, I know that there's some interesting little mechanisms there to try and increase availability for income qualified folks.
Oh, good. Okay.
Okay.
This is just a little comment that happened to go in my pea brain. So
So I understand.
to lower the rates to the consumer in Canyon City, rather than like municipalize and possibly have to pay for new infrastructure, would it be beneficial for the city to put in its own solar farm and the customer receive benefits from this, what the city has done?
So that's another cost benefit type question, because you have to come up with the money up front to
Right,
build,
Right? That's what,
right?
yeah.
And so if you borrow that money, then you've got borrowing costs and all that kind of stuff, and maybe even construction delays now, you know? But so the, the city did purchase part of a solar farm right across,
here?
yeah, right out there. And that was based on, essentially payments to the city for the generation of that electricity, if I phrase that right.
I think we've bought into two solar farms.
There's two,
That's to
One
offset
here-
your usage of the city,
Right,
right?
right.
That doesn't benefit customers, but it
Correct.
benefits the city.
correct.
I
Which
think
also-
what Doug is saying is, hey, if we had a community
A
garden
big, that the city owned.
that the city owned,
Yeah,
that amount could be divided over the citizens of Canyon City.
so
Versus the cost of municipalization and having to put in new structure.
sure. So the solar gardens that we bought into are owned by somebody else. They have a contract with Black Hills. And then based on the amount of power, the city is paid a certain portion of that. Okay, so if you cut out the middleman there, then there's opportunity for savings, because obviously the company that owns the solar farm is making money, right? And so that's an opportunity.
They're not a nonprofit.
They're not a nonprofit. They're not a nonprofit.
Some
So,
of them are.
so, but
Some of
it-
them were operating as a nonprofit, as in bankruptcy.
not, not ours, not ours. Ours is not.
I hope not.
So, but it all comes down to dollars and cents, and so really another way to ask the question is do we have is there some way for us to do a study to look at if the city wanted to invest in a large solar farm? For instance, like out at Cotter or someplace like that, there's lots of land out there that might be available someday.
Ground that ain't gonna be used for anything else.
But what are the economics, and would the city in essence make enough money to be able
To do
to,
that.
yeah, to do that?
And just one point of clarification, I think you said the city receives money from the solar farms. We do not. It's a buy down of our bill.
It's a buy down of our bill. Okay,
Credit
so
to your
The
bill.
credit.
credit, so we get a credit.
Well, I have never thought about that before until just right
Yeah.
then. Because municipalization, if you had to put in new infrastructure, would be terribly expensive. the irrigation district back home where I come from, they decided to form their own utility also.
Uh-huh,
And they had to put in all new infrastructure,
yeah,
which was very costly.
right. Right.
So I think what we really need to do is we need to emphasize trying to help out those on the lower income spectrum, because I did some research in Feeding America, lists the poverty rate in Fremont County as of 2019, about 56% of the population is under 200% of the federal
And there's,
poverty level.
there's a question there. Ryan, where did we come out? Do we know where the prisons included in that poverty rate calculation?
Oh, and the poverty rate calculation, I
Yeah.
do not know.
Oh,
I would assume that they are.
Yeah, you don't know
Yeah,
which
see,
studies.
that's-
include
Yeah.
what.
That's
So
always.
you have
Let's
to,
take 5% off, 6% off.
The prison
Still at
population
50%.
represents 20% of the population of Fremont County.
For the county.
The prison
Yeah,
does?
that's.
Is that both federal and state?
That's all of them.
that's
Yes.
all.
I remember
So
when I was on the library board way back in the day before the city owned it, that we went for a grant and they came back and said, oh, you can't get this grant unless you have a black studies area in the library. And we went, what? And they said, well, 20, whatever percent, you've got to include back to black studies area. And we wrote back and said, well, we don't think that portion of the population is free to use the library.
They don't know library
Bus them
cards.
in to use the library. So, it does absolutely skew numbers.
So
I'm sorry,
really,
but it might be skewed. for that
and
reason.
it could be that somebody knows something else that I don't, but I don't think that, I've heard that question asked in different ways, in different forums. How is the prison population treated for various metrics of our county? And I don't know that I've really heard a definitive answer.
It's a constant discussion I have with the state demographer whenever we're talking about different numbers, because
Makes a big
do these
difference.
numbers are, in the census, it's called group quarters, or group quarters numbers being calculated as part of this demographic or not?
Even my husband, when I was looking at the different districts, thinking about applying for council, here's, you've got 4,000 more in your district. I said, Jerry, that is the territorial prison. And I said, I don't give a rat's patoot. I will not be representing them.
And territorial represents, it fluctuates, but between 9 and 10% of the city's population.
Wow.
So it's whenever you start talking about, poverty rates and things like that, you have to make sure, and we're, you're not even sure whether it's included or not, right?
Correct. Yeah, I don't know if they take group quarters out or not.
Yeah.
So
That
you
way-
really can't even get good statistics of what you have here.
No, because,
As a city, you don't have any, you really don't know.
We
Yeah.
don't- That's true.
yeah,
And
when
that's
when
for
you're,
the county, too.
when you're talking income per capita and
Yeah.
things like that,
Oh, yeah.
how skewed are those numbers because of group quarters, or
Yeah.
are they skewed? We don't know.
We don't know.
That's frustrating,
It's not fair.
because that's a huge issue.
So how much is that to your detriment versus maybe your advantage with certain
For
instances?
grants
It
or
depends on what
Yeah.
what we're trying to do.
Well, I heard there are 1.2 arguments true, but and it wasn't on the internet, but somebody said that that's why we got Home Depot. Because they said, look at this population, it's huge. It's like, no.
Yeah, there have been retailers in the past, and I've never been able to verify that story or not, but they do a lot of demographic information when they come to town, and if they're not paying attention to some of those things, yeah, that becomes an issue.
The city has subscribed to one information service, and we're switching to another
Oh.
information service that lets us look at purchasing patterns, and it's based on cell phone usage. And those guys get cut out of that.
Well, I
You know,
think they,
so-
some of them have cell phones.
Yeah.
That's what I've heard.
But they tend to be stationary.
That's we hope so.
It doesn't move outside. of the
Yeah, it's an
zone.
enclosed group there.
Yeah. Wow, we are unique in so many ways.
I always laugh at friends who's, I always say, friends that are from Texas, they say, we're the Huntsville of Colorado. Oh my God, what happens if you have an escape? I said, trust me, the last place they're gonna stay is
Yeah.
Canyon City. I
That was
said.
always the rule. If somebody says, you have your car keys, you say, here you go, see ya.
Yeah.
Get out of town.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Sorry.
Yeah,
If I can
We
just
digress.
clarify, I think I misstated, I was talking about the DSM plan. It's actually part of the presentation you saw a couple weeks ago addressed what we're doing with the renewable energy standard. So let me get that information. It was probably kind of glossed over because we're focused more on the clean energy. But we did talk about what we're doing with our solar rebates and some other incentives through that program. So I'll get that. It was
Okay.
actually part of the presentation.
great.
The
You're
only
saying we didn't-
other thing I have, John, is that we have been advertising the vacancy on this board. We have not received any letters to this. point.
I did talk to a
Word's out.
citizen Saturday that is, I believe, she tried to apply for the previous, when it was open previously. I believe she's gonna try and apply again.
Okay.
So we may get one.
Just an update.
That's good.
That's where we're at right now.
Can I just clarify, because I was looking at that, so there's 2 business positions open, there's a position for a county commissioner. Is that the 3 opens? Is that, I'm just trying to.
That's-
Yeah, Commissioners aren't
No.
interested.
No.
I knew that.
And we took it out of
We
that
took it out of
revised
that.
ordinance.
2 to 3 business and
Yeah.
1 resident.
Okay.
So we've got 2 to 3 Canyon City business owners, 2 to 3 Canyon City residents, 2 Canyon City Energy Future members, and 3 city council members is what the makeup is now.
But the size of the group cannot exceed
Up to 9.
up to 9. So there's flexibility depending on whether or not somebody's coming in as a business owner or as a resident.
Okay, so that's not necessarily a 100% rule, it's just 9 is kind of the cap.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Okay, anything else? I think we're done then. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.